so it's considered service.
So you work for the university as well?
I work for the supervisor. I'm a graduate student.
That's weird.
And,
So now you're covered.
Well, professors are such great employers, right? That would never, ever exploit our students. But no, actually, professors could, depends how this. That's the thing, you don't know how this stuff's going to work out, but professors could start to use this type of,
Well, yeah, and you would be affected by the change of the name employee. So this legislation could roll you in, and you could be an employee of a professor who establishes himself as a corporation.
I mean, some other schools, the assistant union, like some other schools, like research assistants and teaching assistants, unionized, like in Ontario. Here, we don't.
It's actually a really good idea. When I went to York University, the research assistants got unionized. I think they got a much better deal than the research assistants here in terms of pay, in terms of rate. Because you can't, the thing is, as a research assistant, you have very little power against your professor. Because especially if the professor has some supervisor who's on top of it all, it can be creating exploitative relationships. So it was QP in York University where I was at that unionized RAs, but I wouldn't be bad in here.
Yeah, QP unionized at York. I think the research assistants and the teaching assistants at McMaster unionized under PSAC, Public Service Alliance in Canada. So, yeah. Hi.
Barb's my boss.
Oh, I'm so not her boss.
I just wanted to add to the guy at the end there, his comment about what's happening in his workplace, regardless of what the law is in place at the moment.
Yeah.
Like the reality for people, for lots of people, is even though it's illegal, it's still happening. And I've often thought that, and it's easy for me to say because it'd be hard to do, but I've often thought that unions could reach out. Like I understand that someone else should be doing that there should be more, officers sort of investigating those things. There should be more on the radio. They should be reaching out to young workers, but the fact is they aren't. And I think one way to connect with people who maybe aren't connected to some of the larger issues is to just simply offer some help. And, it's like helping people navigate a system right now that isn't working for them, and all you're telling them is what the law is and giving them some support. And I often thought that would make it more real for people about what you're talking about. I realize it would cost an investment on the part of unions or organizations to be able to sort of offer that additional service, but I think it's taken a long view of who you need to have on your side, and it is hard to get people to come out when they feel like it won't really make a difference, because even as the law is now, it's not being enforced. Anyway, it's just a thought.
Did everybody hear her? Yeah? And it's a valid point, because I can tell you what the law is. You know that you have to go to labor standards. But going to labor standards as a non-unionized worker exposes you. There's no way that the employer will get caught if they fire you for reporting it. Happened to me. I reported my employer and I got my ass fired. But you're right. And this might sound strange, but I'm going to say it anyways. Unions have to change the way that they operate. It is not just about our members, because our members are part of a community. And that community is what unions need to reach out to. So you're absolutely right, Sherry. We have to change the way that we operate. We need to reach out. And there are unions doing that now. SEIU West isn't there yet, but we are going to be. And there are unions that talk about building a workers' center where unemployed, underemployed, and non-union workers can go to for free legal advice, or assistance in filing a claim with labor standards or with WCB, because I know that restaurant workers sure as hell don't file. But that needs to be where we go. And it takes, yes, it takes money,
Yeah.
it takes an investment. And quite frankly, it takes a bit of guts because it's something that we're not used to doing. We're used to filing grievances, we're used to bargaining collective agreements, we're used to lobbying government and keeping someone else. Really good at that. But there has to be the next step of what we do, which is building that ally, that partnership with people who aren't union. Way in the corner, what do you do? Nope, guy with the two.
I used to work with Call.
Oh, you don't work there anymore?
No.
Okay. Are you a student?
Yes.
Okay. You talk too much. And girl with the computer.
I'm currently unemployed.
Seriously, you guys, go apply for jobs in an RUH. They are hiring up the wazoo, and you make good money. You want to know how much you make as an environmental service worker, a housekeeper? I think you start at $15 an hour. Yeah. Yeah. And minimum call is 3 hours. It's in a collective agreement. So seriously, if you guys are unemployed, you just go get a mainline job at healthcare and we'll help you ladder. I'm not kidding. What do you do?
Me?
Yeah, you.
I'm the other vice president of the multinational corporation.
Awesome.
Let's do
And you're all the
corporate
S4s out front? I might have backed into it, sorry.
No, I'm a federal public servant. A member of the Union of Solicitor General Employees.
Oh, interesting job. And what brought you out here?
What am I doing here?
Yeah.
Corrections.
Corrections?
Corrections Canada.
Excellent. Was it your guys that were at RUH this morning?
No, that was the provincial.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a question, like, if you think like Saskatchewan, has been a province that has a youth retention policy, up until this point in time, it's been an issue. It's very, there's not, the labor force is not attractive to young people, or young people are entering kind of later, they're paying their way. The value of their dollar is less. And we have a labor force shortage, so why would we be doing these kind of you're welcome here things in this legislation? It's an agenda that doesn't really make sense, except, to sort of have a more open-minded approach to labor.
I could not tell you the thinking behind this legislation. I swear to God.
I can take that if you want. The method is, there's some method behind the madness, right? And I'm causing the time here, so I don't want to put your down so much. But, I think the answer to your question is that there is a certain part of the Saskatchewan Party that there's a base that needs some red meat, right? And so this is sort of part of that red meat. And there's part of that cabinet that's very right-wing, that's been around for a while, who wants to get something, right? And sticking it to the unions makes them feel as if they accomplished something in politics. So that's part of it. But also I think, but even broadly, Wall himself though has an idea of growth agenda. And his idea of growth is an impoverished one in the sense that you make, in order to become more economically competitive, you lower work standards, right? And that's going to attract even more investment, right? And give you more growth. And the name of the game is just to increase the GDP and get more growth. And who cares how happy people actually are. So I think it's a combination of sort of the base and their representing cabinet really wanting some red meat, but also Wall himself seeing this as a long-term investment in order to sustain growth in Saskatchewan through just inviting as much investment as possible to come in, and hopefully that growth will just sustain itself in the future. So I do think there's some method in that.
Again, it's not really a question as much as it is like,
Bye. Good luck in your exams.
as it is as much a theory that I have about all the changes that are actually happening across Canada. And myself, personally, this is only my opinion, but I personally believe that the labor changes that are happening right now are linked to the changes that are happening in Ottawa for the corporations to come in and do economic development. Because they will bring in workers, and the countries that are coming in to do economic development, our laws cannot interfere with their extraction of our resources. And that includes our labor laws and everything else. So if they want to bring workers, say, from their own country to come work here, and this is just my opinion, that they would not want to pay them what they would pay every other worker in Canada or even in Saskatchewan under the same kind of laws that we have right now. So if they want to bring workers here and say, do they fall under the labor standards when they bring them from other countries? Do they fall under our labor standards? Would be a question I would have. And if they do, I could see why the corporations would not want these labor laws being in place, because it would interfere with what they're doing.
You wearing socks?
Yeah,
Okay, so I'm going to knock your socks off.
okay. Knock my socks off.
So you make a really good point about countries outside Canada coming in to do economic development, corporations coming in from other countries and doing economic development. But there was a law passed in Brad Wall's first term, which is the Canada-U.S. Partnership Agreement, which in essence takes our legislation and makes an agreement with BC and Alberta that we will not have laws that are better or supersede, so that companies who operate in those three provinces will have an even playing field across Saskatchewan, Alberta, and BC. So what that means is if there are lower labor standards in Alberta, the labor standards in Saskatchewan can't be better than those. And I'm paraphrasing, I'm not giving you chapter and verse. But that's what the New West, Canada New West Partnership. Yeah. And we were successful as working people in getting the first version of that chucked off the books. However, they brought it back, and this New West Partnership Agreement, everybody's at the same level playing field, except that level playing field is in the basement. So you're right on the exact track. You're 110% there, except it gets worse as you look, locally.
That's about as far as I wanted to go on that. I didn't want to really have nightmares over it.
Sorry.
The other thing,
Some socks.
the other question I had was, if this Bill 85 passes, and if we're successful in getting this government out the next term, how long will it take to get those labor standards back in place?
That's the million-dollar question.
It could immediately.
Yeah.
I mean, the Blakeney government came in '71 and undid the labor standards of the Thatcher government in a matter of months. Tom Douglas came in and totally revamped the labor standards in a matter of months. A government built the will can completely undo this in a matter of months.
That's the question, political will.
Yeah.
Political will is the question.
Yeah.
But the answer is, it's very easy to do very quickly if
Okay.
the will is there.
Well, I think it's quite obvious how fast the government can change it. You look at every bill that they put in. This is Bill 85. We put in 5 and 6. Bills 43, 80. Now we're at 85. None of which is good for you. And by the way, this government actually said that they would not sign the Tillman Deal,
Which was
aka
the original.
Northwest Free Trade Agreement. Their trade agreement. They said they would not do it because their people stood up and said that was part of the group actually wanted it. And to stop, Tillman. In my humble opinion, trade agreements do nothing more than allow people to take over, corporations to take over your country without any military force law. They undermine every civic, municipal law that exists today. Because at the end of the day, the NAFTA agreement has the ability to You cannot impede any corporation from making money, regardless if they're destroying your environment, regardless of whether they're killing the people,